of the Astrology of Terrible Things. We're the podcast that uses astrology to answer the question, why do bad things happen? I'm your host, Carly Heath. I'm a writer in Los Angeles, and I'm here with my co-host, Emily Simile, who is a TikToker and a teacher. And their TikTok is at Emily Simile, where you can find amazing, incredible Astrology of Terrible Things TikTok short videos, which everyone loves and are so entertaining. Say hi, Emily.
Hi. Thank you for that introduction.
Also joining us is Dinah-Maria Campos, a spirit oracle whose work is grounded in a lifelong relationship with San Francisco and Lake Tahoe, and who was born a few days before me, actually. And Dinah-Maria's Cosmic Tea with DMC translates complexity into clarity. Welcome, Dinah-Maria.
Excited to be here with you, ladies.
You get to share a chart with us in just a few moments, and we will then have to guess what happened in that chart, and then we will see if we guessed right or incorrect when you tell us the story of the terrible thing that happened in that chart. But before we get into that, we want to talk a little bit about the astrology that's going on right now. And we are in the final stages of Uranus in Taurus. Very soon, Uranus will be going into Gemini. Since 2018, it's been in Taurus. So how has your Uranus in Taurus been treating you?
Ooh, as soon as it ingressed into Taurus, it flipped my life upside down. My intuition led me to discover my now ex-husband's infidelity. And
oh my gosh! What's the Taurus house for you? What part of your chart?
It rules my sixth.
Oh, yeah. The bad fortune, the house of bad fortune.
Yeah. And you know what's fascinating though? Right before I discovered that, I decided to stop drinking. And I just felt like I was using alcohol to numb and it wasn't good for me. I felt it in my body so strongly. And so that removing alcohol made my intuition just like hit a whole other level. So it's fascinating that ultimately it Uranus ingressing prompted me to be even more healthy. But that led to a waterfall of other events. Like my grandfather ended up being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer that same summer, ended up transitioning in my home. And then a lifelong family member passed suddenly as well in 2019. It was like thing after thing after thing. Uranus kicked my behind. And also going through a Uranus opposition, I literally felt it the entire time. Not, a year at the peak. It hit the exact degree on 3 different occasions, but I literally felt it the entire time and still do.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a lot. Any job changes since it's been your 6th house?
Well, yeah, I was basically doing real estate in the Silicon Valley, and it was actually May of last year that I decided to start this business, Divinely Me by DMC, because I was basically helping people find their quote unquote happily ever after, because society teaches us if we find the money, the partner, the perfect home, we'll live happily after. But from my personal experience, I learned that is not true. You can have the house with the fence and the kids and the 2 cars in the garage, whatnot, yada, yada. And still, that's not for me where true happiness lives. So this business is more focused on guiding folks to the home within themselves.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, the chaos will continue swirling around you, but if you're centered on the Wheel of Fortune, you can stay your happy, content Libra stellium self. Yeah.
And I'm very, I've studied Uranus very closely now, that the power of that planet, the chaos and the disruption. A beautiful friend of mine passed away suddenly by electric shock this year, also born around the same time that we were born. And so that astrology literally sometimes manifests exactly as that, right? The electricity.
That's amazing. Wow. And what about you, Emily? How has Uranus in Taurus been for you?
Uranus moved into Taurus right around when I graduated high school. And Uranus rules my 3rd house. Taurus rules my 3rd house. Sorry. And so I graduated high school, went to college. It was the first time in my life that I had ever moved. I did not move out of my hometown though. I went to college in my hometown. But I just started engaging with my community in a definitely different way. And I became a teacher. I moved to a new city, actually. Only 2 hours away, but still a little bit of a move. And I told you this story, Carly. The first time that we met, I was talking about how, when Uranus went into Gemini, like 0-degree Gemini, I had just moved into this new apartment. I had moved out of an apartment with my ex-boyfriend because I realized I was gay. And so I was gonna, ended that. I'm on my own for the first time. I've lived in this new place for 3 months. And then the day that Uranus enters Gemini, my 4th house, I get a notice to vacate on my door because they are destroying every single one of the apartments and they're completely redeveloping the area. And they gave us all 90 days to get out. So now I'm in my new home and I have really weird neighbors. So that's how Uranus has gone for me. Uranus and Taurus in my 3rd house.
Oh, so it's my 8th house. And I feel like right as soon as Uranus went into Taurus, well, one, I had broken up with my boyfriend and I had moved with him to Nebraska while he was starting college. And I bought a house in Nebraska. And when Uranus entered Taurus, I sold the house. I broke up with him. I moved back to LA. I started getting really into the stock market, and it was very up and down. Like sometimes I would be like, woohoo, making a lot of money. Sometimes I would not. I would be way too risky. So my Uranus and Taurus is like, that's learning about like risk. But when Saturn went into Pisces, I got my current job, which has a pension, and really good health benefits. And I feel like is really secure. And it has a pension, which is so rare. So I'm hoping when Uranus leaves Taurus, that whole like investments, retirement will calm down. I've had to, with taking care of all these stray animals, I've had to pull some money out of the stock market and like pay for vet bills and stuff. So I really hope the chaos of like sudden unexpected expenses in my 8th house, having to suddenly like sell my investments to pay for things goes away. And we have more of that like good, dignified Venus co-present with Saturn in my 1st house, ruling my 8th house. It gets a little bit more steady. Yeah. So we are going to jump into looking at a chart shared by Dinah-Maria. And I'm really excited to see what you have to share with us.
Beautiful. I am excited to share as well. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Oh, okay. Virgo rising.
An 8th house chart ruler.
Yeah, 2nd time.
We have to take a tally. We've had 2 12th house rulers and 2 8th house rulers so far.
Yeah, 0 degrees Mercury. And is the ascendant 0 degrees Venus?
Or Virgo?
Virgo. Oh my gosh, Carly, learn to use your words. So is the ascendant 0 degrees Virgo?
No, I did this in whole sign to make it easier.
Oh, okay.
Usually I use Placidus. I believe it's a 12-degree Virgo rising.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Good to know.
Okay.
The sun. So it's with it's a day chart. So it's got an exalted sun in Aries in the 8th house, opposing Mars. So the most malefic planet is Mars in the 2nd house, which is Libra, opposing that sun.
I'm getting money vibes already, just finances. I feel like could be involved in this.
And that Mars is co-present with a Saturn and a Pluto in the Mars, Saturn, and Pluto in the 2nd house. Ooh.
Ooh. This feels like a scam. Yeah. This feels like somebody like a pyramid scheme. I don't know. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Okay. So that Libra house, remember Mars is debilitated in Libra. That Libra house and remember Saturn is exalted in Libra. So that Saturn might not be bad. Saturn
that and Mars is going to be a lot worse.
Saturn in Libra is like, let me make balance. Let me take out things that are not healthy.
It's an exact opposition between the Sun and the Mars. Sorry.
Yeah. The Venus is in Aquarius, being ruled by a exalted Saturn in Libra. So we also have a mutual reception between Venus and Saturn. So that's, but it's a day chart. So Venus is not all that, but the mutual reception is helpful. Then Jupiter
could be like that Venus in Aquarius in the 6th house. That could be like service workers of some kind, like people doing a service, maybe even specifically. Say again?
Oh, I was also thinking health.
Yes. Like, oh yeah, definitely. Like possibly like people who work with health and service in some way, but like maybe even specifically women because of the Venus, but also there's so many other things that Venus could signify. But that's definitely like, I'm being drawn more towards this like 2nd to 8th house axis. All of this happening here.
Being ruled, the final dispositor here is Venus and Saturn. The moon is also very well dignified in Cancer. This makes me think of women. This makes me think of
a group of women,
mothers of women's health. It's making me think of, so the 6th house is, and the Aquarius of it is making me also think of maybe like homeless women or women outside the margins.
Women experiencing extreme financial situations because Saturn conjunct Pluto in the 2nd house, ruling over that 6th house. I feel like this feels like some sort of like definitely women, families, and I don't know. I'm getting like this could be some sort of like big MLM scandal, like multi-level marketing.
Because of the mutual reception between Venus and Saturn and the Mars opposition to the Sun, I'm not thinking it's a scam. I'm thinking it's someone doing or something being done to help, like justice, trying to create equality, something trying to bring about change, especially the father, the son, the leader, the patriarchy of the Sun in Aries. And a little Mercury makes me think of a child in there too. Like a custody battle. Like,
did you want to ask benefic? Oh yeah, we should ask questions.
Oh yeah. We get 5 questions. Is this one person or a group? No, how about this? Is this a group of people?
Yes.
Okay.
Is this related to finances in some way? Is it like closely related?
I would not say closely related, but it was expensive.
Okay.
Is this a group of women?
No.
Okay. Is women and mothers a major theme of it?
Women are among the group.
Okay.
Now I'm like, I want to see. So in the 4th house, we have both Uranus and Neptune, being ruled by that Jupiter, being ruled by the Mars, and then the Venus, Jupiter, Mars, Venus. So I don't know. It seems like maybe something has happened to the like home of, like you said, like people experiencing homelessness, maybe people like, this could be like a food bank, people who are in need, something happening to their resources.
Is it related to homelessness?
No.
I feel like we asked our questions.
I know.
Oh, is that 5? Is that 5 of them?
I'm going to think about it a little bit more because there's this, the 6th house, the 2nd house, and the 8th house.
Yeah.
So it really seems like misfortune, bad luck, a leader or solar figure or famous person in the 8th house, dealing with other people's money. So my keywords are going to be a group of people losing a lot of money through a bad luck situation. And
I'm thinking about the other significations of the 6th house, and it's making me think about like animals. And then with the ruler of the 6th house and the 2nd house, Saturn and Libra. I don't even know. Like this, I don't know if this is related to animals or not.
I can show you the birth chart of the location. I can also show you the birth chart of one of those that was impacted.
Oh, you have like a significant figure?
A person that was impacted as part of this. Yes, I don't have a timed birth chart for that person, but you could just see where the planets were on the day that they were born, if that's helpful. And also, again, the location where this took place. I do birth charts for locations as well. I find that helpful.
What do you think, Carly?
I'm thinking I want to see that after I find out what this is.
Yeah.
But there's something that seems to be like with a leader, a boss, a father figure, a authority of some sort, and bad luck with material possessions. And I feel like it's a community of some sort, a group of people. Okay, I'm ready to hear what this is.
Okay, beautiful. So I get to set the stage. If we go back to January of 1982, it was a historically wet winter in Northern California. San Francisco actually went on record January 4th, 1982 for just having historic records since the National Weather Service began tracking in 1890.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
we have 3 planets here in water signs. So yeah. Okay.
And I say that because I feel like it's similar to what we're currently experiencing right now, January of 2026. So then if we fast forward, go back to 1982, fast forward a couple months and go to the end of March. So the end of March, we were still experiencing lots of rain, lots of snow. And on March 31st, 1982, there was a large avalanche that hit Alpine Meadows Ski Resort in California, killing 7 people. It was the deadliest avalanche in history. It had snowed hard for 4 days. The resort was closed, but there were still people who had to go to work. And Alpine, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's extreme terrain. It's classified as a Class A area, meaning that it has a very high potential for avalanches. Mm-hmm. And so that day, the manager, his name is Bernie Klinger, he had closed the resort to the public. It was impossible to open the lifts because the winds were like 100 miles per hour and even higher than that. And so, 8 hours before the disaster struck, there was like records of almost 90 inches of snow accumulating just in a very short period of time. And at 3:45 p.m., a voice rang over the radio saying avalanche. And that was Jake Smith, who was a patroller there at Alpine Meadows. He was heading back to the resort after was patrolling. Alpine Meadows is connected to what's now known as Palisades, Tahoe. And so he had been patrolling and was now driving through the parking lot. And he was the first to alert others of the incoming wall of white. And so I feel like he saved a lot of lives because you were talking about, the male figure. Yeah. And so, the male figures in this incident did everything they could to help. And I believe they saved a lot of lives as a result of that. And so basically anything in the path of the avalanche was consumed. Full grown trees were like snapping like twigs, and it completely pummeled the main lift terminal, the summit chair. It engulfed the main lodge, which housed the ski patrol shack and the ski school. The snow cats and snowmobiles that were parked at the bottom were gone instantly. There was like up to 20 feet of snow from one moment to the next. There was another guy named Randy Buck. He was in the main lodge at the time of the slide, and he heard Jake Smith say avalanche. And then he barely had any time to react because not long after that, there was a giant whoosh that buried him in snow. He rolled into a ball and was swept away, but he managed to maintain a pocket of air and stay close to the surface. And so he was able to free his head and his arms. And when he climbed to the surface, he saw just the severity of the situation. And his coworker, a guy named Ted Delafise, I don't know if I'm saying his last name correctly and apologize if I'm not, but he was buried as well next to him, but he was able to get out too. So the both of them set out to dig and to help rescue whoever they could. So among those who ultimately perished, you earlier had mentioned a child. There was an 11-year-old girl. There were 3 out-of-towners who perished. One was Dr. Leroy Bud Nelson. He was a surgeon from Eureka, California. And what's so interesting, and he's a Sagittarius sun with his Jupiter in Cancer. You had mentioned when you were looking at the chart that the moon was exalted in Cancer. Yeah. But it's also squaring Aries, which I have noted for Lake Tahoe specifically that is particularly challenging.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there was another incident last June 21st of 2025 where there was a horrendous event where 8 people ended up passing away. They were enjoying a beautiful day on their boat and the weather's changed
Yeah,
from
I heard
one
about
moment to the
that.
next. Yeah. And that was the sun in Cancer squaring Saturn and Neptune, which were briefly in Aries last summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But going back to the event in 1982, so Dr. Leroy Bud Nelson, again, he is a Sagittarius sun. And I share that because going into the birth charts of those who perished, at least those who had obituaries, quite a few of them were Sagittarius suns.
Yeah. The
Ooh.
Uranus and Neptune in Sagittarius.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, Dr. Nelson was 39 years old, so he was in a fourth house perfection year.
Okay.
And so it was his 11-year-old daughter, Laura, who died unfortunately alongside him, and she was in a 12th house perfection year. And so her and her dad basically had been cooped up at their rental for like 4 days in the snow, and they just wanted to go out and get a bite to eat. And they had another friend who at the last minute decided not to join them. And he did not end up passing away, but I can only imagine like the heaviness associated with like, not joining them. But there was another person, let's see. So we talked about going back to Bernie, the manager. He was 49. So he was in a first house perfection year. He ultimately ended up perishing. He was a Libra sun, with Venus in Leo ruling that. And his assistant, Beth Morrow, she also passed away. She was 22. There's a number of people that were 22.
22 is a tough year.
Yeah. And she's another Sagittarius sun. Her sun was applying to Jupiter. And there was a Frank Yeatman, a college student, 22 as well. Another 11th house perfection year person. What's interesting is I found that in July of 2023, his nephew went online stating that their family had not been told about a 2021 documentary that ended up being made called Buried about the incident. But he talked about how his uncle had a ton of animals, even a pet hawk, spoke very, very fondly of him. So Frank Yeatman's girlfriend, her name was Anna Conrad, and she was also a college student. And what's interesting about her is she ended up surviving. She was buried for 5 days, but was able to get a pocket of air.
Wow.
Yeah. And so no food, no water. She got a little bit of water from melted snow, but she was able to survive. And she's also a Sagittarius sun. But for her Jupiter, her sun in Sagittarius is before her Jupiter. The term is fleeing my mind at the time. But basically the opposite of the other 22-year-old whose Jupiter was applying to the sun. So I just find that so fascinating, right? Because you could be born, you could be the same age, but it's going to manifest differently for you depending on how your chart is configured.
And
right?
I'm sorry, being buried in the snow for 5 days, I would want to die. I cannot even imagine what that's like. But that it does speak to the Venus and Saturn mutual reception, the ability to endure a lot of hard circumstance for a long period of time in order to survive.
Yes. And I have her birth chart, not a time one, but if you want to look at it, she ended up losing one of her legs. And
oh, wow.
I believe it was her right leg and then her left toes as well because of, severe hypothermia. But she, to my knowledge, still lives in the area in Mammoth Lakes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there was another gentleman who perished, David Hahn. He was from the Bay Area. I believe he was from Los Gatos. And yeah, I couldn't tell whether or not he was with Dr. Nelson and his daughter, but those were the 3 out-of-towners that perished.
Okay.
But in total, it was 7. And yes, went down in history as being
the worst avalanche.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now that we know that, I feel like we can see the Mercury still being kind of combust the sun. The shouting, but letting people know or trying to let people know.
It's I think what you said, them being able to communicate to people that there was an avalanche happening, it made things, hopefully less people were hurt because of their warnings, hopefully.
And also closing the road, making it inaccessible for folks. Yeah. They took precautionary measures and really did everything they could. I believe that.
Definitely.
I also have the chart of Lake Tahoe if you want to see that in terms of how it was hit. And then again of Anna Conrad as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. So the birth chart of Lake Tahoe, which I'm assuming is the incorporation of the town of Lake Tahoe.
No, it was actually when it was discovered.
Okay.
Quote unquote discovered, because, of course it existed long before.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating is, let's see, I can pull it up for you. And is it still sharing? It's not. Okay.
It's funny. I would have thought Mars conjunct Uranus would have been like an avalanche.
Yeah.
But Mars going into Saturn, with Venus in the first house. Okay. So this is the location chart we're looking at right now for Lake Tahoe, which is a Gemini rising with Mercury in Aquarius in the 9th house, really closely moving into a conjunction with Saturn, also in the 9th house. And Neptune and the Sun are also in a close conjunction in Aquarius in the 9th house. Mm-hmm. Jupiter is in Pisces, which is in the 10th house, and with co-present with Venus in Pisces in the 10th house. So we get that this is a beautiful place that lots of people love to go to.
Yeah, it seems like a long-term vacation home sort of feel, especially with that like Mercury conjunct Saturn in the 9th house. It's like, this is where people like, I don't know, I feel like I know a lot of people from that. I happen to go to college with a lot of people from the Bay Area, and maybe I'm making a generalization, but I feel like they all had a attachment to Lake Tahoe in some way.
Yeah, she certainly does that to people. She's mesmerizing. What I keep a close eye on for Lake Tahoe is that 0-degree Uranus in Aries, because I have seen that particular point be triggered many, many times. And I do feel like starting mid-February of 2026, it'll be triggered again in potentially very big, terrible ways. And
it has a Mars-Pluto conjunction in Aries in the 11th house. So groups of people. And Mars-Pluto conjunction. Yikes.
I'll also point out that I did rectify this chart myself. I have never seen it online, but I got the intuitive hit a year ago about Palisades, and my heart went to Palisades Tahoe as opposed to Pacific Palisades, but I literally got the intuitive hit the night before the Pacific Palisades fire started. Wow. Yeah. And so I've learned to really listen to these random intuitive hits that I get, but that's when I went searching for Tahoe's chart. And this is a chart that I feel really fits all of the events that have hit. But ultimately with this avalanche and everything else to come, I think Mother Earth is just really asking us to respect her and her boundaries and her power, and just honor her in whatever way we can.
Yeah. Can we go back to the accident chart?
Yeah. I could even put them together too.
I want to figure out the birth chart of my city. Now you'll have to tell me how all of that goes.
It's not sharing it, right? Okay.
Oh yeah, we're seeing your whole screen.
So now we're just
seeing
the
chart. Perfect. Okay, fascinating.
So this one I think went back to Placidus. Okay, yeah,
Venus.
Oh, and like you said, the vertex is exactly conjunct the Jupiter there and that's so the Jupiter of the location chart is that right? Or no, that's the event chart. So the Jupiter of the event chart is like conjunct the location chart's vertex. What would you say? Because I'm not super familiar with the vertex, but I would love to know, Dinah-Maria, what you think about that.
Yeah, I have found, even though you will notice this is a noon chart, like I've really felt into all the events, like them hosting the Olympics, et cetera, that makes this really feel like it's on point. And it might be like that it is, like Tahoe is Gemini rising. But with regards to the vertex, and I say that because the vertex can change depending on like your rising sign, and it moves very quickly, about, I think a degree every 4 minutes or so. But what I have found with mundane events, with personal events, with tragic events, fun, cool, surprising events, the vertex is always hitting a pertinent place in that person's chart or that location's chart, whoever it is that is directly impacted. And it has really caught my attention. I just find it utterly fascinating, again, to work with. And whether or not it's me or my children, my parents, friends, whoever, they like literally, if I have the exact minute when something happened, it's fascinating to see how and where it's hitting in our charts.
And it's really interesting. The Mercury is exactly conjunct the Uranus at 0 degrees.
I also, whenever you said the Olympics, I had I'm not familiar with Lake Tahoe, but I mean, whenever I saw the Mars the Aries Mars conjunction. Oh my God. Whenever I saw the Mars Pluto conjunction in Aries in the 11th house, that really made me think of like extreme sports. And so like groups of people gathering for extreme sports reasons, which I don't know. I thought that was just very much the Olympics. I don't know if there's other like sporting events and things like that. Oh, skiing. Yeah. Yeah. Wait, that's so fun.
That's, and there's also like water skiing there, and there's boating, and there's a lot of boating accidents, and there's a lot of, I feel like there's been a lot of deaths at Lake Tahoe over the years.
Yeah. And what's fascinating, so I love it. I find it empowering to have this visibility, especially what might potentially transpire in the future. And so for me, I will still go and visit and spend time there, because I do enjoy spending time there. But knowing this, I would be particularly cautious mid-February, because I know that Saturn and Neptune will be on the Uranus, just like they were June of last year when they had this tragic boating accident that made international news. And then also when there is a square to like the Cancer sun, that seems like another particularly sensitive point in the chart. Or, I would keep an eye on things moving through Cancer and squaring that Uranus. So I really think that there's certain, like from February to June, I'm going to, look out for and really feel into. And I encourage people to also not only use the visibility of the astrological lens, but their inner wisdom too. If you get that gut feeling of like, oh yeah, maybe I'm not going to go and try that ski adventure today, then listen to that. I
definitely agree. I feel like a lot of people kind of had, I don't know, maybe I'm making a generalization. I had kind of a premonition to not go out for New Year's, and it happened at one of the major cities in my state. Thankfully, it was averted, like it didn't happen, but there was a potential terrorist attack in one of the big cities near me. So that is scary. I don't know, but I try not to scare myself with astrology like that. But also sometimes it's like, it's better to trust your gut.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that Mercury was squaring Neptune on New Year's Eve. And Mercury is the trickster. I know folks talk about it as being like communication and whatnot, but I have seen Mercury bring deadly things. And there was an explosion in Switzerland. I don't know if you are aware.
Yeah,
that was devastating.
That was awful. Yeah. Have you seen that? The Swiss ski cabin building that people were partying in caught on fire. And it was when the fire was initially happening, people were filming it with their phone cameras and not taking it serious. And then all of a sudden it went from just kind of like a little fire, and then it just engulfed everything, and everyone is screaming and cramming to get out.
Oh my gosh. I want to look at the chart for that. I wonder what's going on in that fifth house.
Yeah.
And a lot of those folks were younger, like, children. I know earlier you had asked, like, well, what age is children? I haven't really felt into that, but they were like 16, 17, maybe 18. And so I think also Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces, there was so much confusion, fog. It didn't register right away. Like, this is serious. Like, let's take action right now. But
yeah, so tragic. So we've been doing like a lot of looking at past terrible things. And I thought it would be fun is fun is not the correct word. Interesting to look at a chart, a terrible event from the future. And so Dinah-Maria is going to share a future terrible chart, and we're going to see if we can guess what the future terrible thing is.
If it goes the same as how we've been guessing so far, we might be a little off, but we're going to get better every single time we do it.
Yes. And let me know if you can see. So we're back to whole sign. So it's a Gemini rising chart.
Okay. So this is not too far in the future. This is when we got that stellium in Capricorn. We have Mars, Mercury.
It seems like the president is doing something stupid.
Yeah. New moon in Capricorn, which is nearly conjunct Mercury and Mars, and Venus and Pluto in Aquarius. Neptune and Saturn are moving ever so close together, very much within orb, and Jupiter is in Cancer at 18 degrees, and Uranus is still in Taurus at 27 degrees.
I personally wouldn't be surprised if something happened with the Epstein files again on this day. I mean, I don't know, just like all of the planets in the 8th and 9th house, all of that together is kind of like giving some sort of a reveal related to a public figure, and maybe even something specifically like with like women exerting power over women, and with it being in the 9th house, maybe even related to like legal things. But that's, I don't know. I feel like we've been hearing things about the Epstein files coming out for quite some time. So, and I wish I had been following some of those transits more closely, because I'm sure that if that is something that would happen, there would be some sort of a recurrence happening here. But what do you guys see?
I'm not paying too much close attention to the ascendant, because the chances that we will get an event to happen exactly at that ascendant point is very unlikely. So I'm looking at more like this is probably going to be something that happens around the time of the new moon in Capricorn, maybe a few days before, maybe a few days after. But because it's a new moon and because Mercury is combust, I'm thinking that it will be something behind the scenes that happens that we won't find out about until Mercury separates 10 degrees from the sun. And because Mars is exalted, and Cancer's still doing well, it's giving someone's feeling good about fucking around with doing martial things. And, being that this is the second house of the Capricorn is the second house of the US chart, it could even be fucking around with financial things. And it'll be something that we find out later that on this day, that was when that thing, like the order was signed to do that thing, but we don't find out about it right away. It's like we find out about it later. And kind of like the Zelensky, I remember when Trump was going through a peak period in his zygo releasing, I was like, that is going to be important. Maybe he's going to be impeached during that peak period. But like nothing happened. It was super quiet. Later, though, when he was actually impeached, we found out during that peak period, he had made the phone call to Zelensky to say, hey, I will give you funding in exchange for see if you can cause problems for Biden's son, and that sort of deal was happening. And then that was the reason that he was impeached. But we didn't know about that at the time. We only found out that that phone call happened at that particular date much later. So I feel like this is going to be that sort of thing. We find out about it much later.
Mercury and Saturn and Uranus are all exactly making like they're all
trying
at 27 degrees. Yeah. Definitely. I really like what you were saying there. And I could very much see that. Definitely the president doing something. I feel like it's probably related to him because he's always doing something, it seems like today, but
yeah. Our president kidnapped another president.
I wonder if this
supermoon, like
I know.
Around 2 a.m. and that's the U.S.'s 8th house.
Yeah. So 8th house associated with kidnapping, and now he's like, we're going to run Venezuela. Yeah, and given that the U.S.'s 8th house of Cancer has always been associated with genocide, with colonialism, with taking things from other people that don't belong to us, taking other people's presidents, I think that tracks really well.
And also, so we're not in Aries, Neptune, Saturn just yet, but Israel and Palestine are very, very much related to Aries, Libra on that axis.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it could be related to that or, I don't know. It could be related to Palestine. It could be related to
Venezuela.
I don't know. Venezuela.
Financial shenanigans, creating, signing something to create money to do warlike things.
Yeah.
What day is this, by the way?
So it's interesting you said that about the rising sign, because I really felt into where it would be. And did you want me to tell you what it was or not yet, or what I'm doing?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Tell us the date. Tell us what you're thinking. Yeah.
So I set it for Sunday, January 18th. 1:24 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I set it for San Francisco, California.
Okay.
And this month. So like 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. I mean, there were so many possibilities, but I thought it would be interesting to track one that is right around the corner. And for me, what I'm feeling is that it would be an earthquake above 6.0 that would hit. And there was a number of reasons I personally enjoy studying earthquake charts and just seeing where things line up. And Gemini rising is the ascendant sign for a lot, which is interesting. But I actually had put this together before the 6.5 earthquake hit Mexico City just a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw that, but it's interesting because that particular one, I mean, it was very similarly lined up, although the moon wasn't in Capricorn. But so what I was feeling is that it would be an earthquake. You have all that Capricorn energy trining Uranus. And I have gone back and confirmed that larger earthquakes in the past have done that. They don't do it every time, but I have seen, the patterns. At least a handful of times I've gone deep into the earthquake charts when I have the exact minute. And then with the Jupiter in the second house, I was feeling that it would be very expensive, the damage caused. And with regards to the Pisces in the 10th house, something around water and confusion, fog, potentially restriction of water. Maybe they shut down the water, and who knows, maybe the power shut down as well. And, what's interesting is I had already had this chart set in motion when then it occurred to me that going back to 1989, it was October 17th, 1989, that this area last experienced a large earthquake. It was
I remember that one. I was in San Francisco when that happened. Yeah, I remember that.
Wow.
And so it's just interesting that happened, right? That same year. And I feel like we're going to have that reoccurrence in a number of ways.
Cool. So we will see. What was the date and time again?
January 18th at 1:24 p.m. Pacific.
Okay. Let's watch out for earthquakes on January 18th. Let's see if that happens. And we'll have to talk to you on a future episode to see if we got it right.
Yeah, I find this so empowering and so helpful, and not in a like freak yourself out kind of way, just of like, okay, cool, I'll be prepared. I'll have a plan. I'll have those tough conversations. I'll line up extra water, non-perishables, etc. And it's actually, again, having this tool in our toolkit is massive.
So this concludes another episode of the Astrology of Terrible Things. Dinah-Maria can be found on Instagram at Divinely Me by DMC, and Emily Simile can be found on TikTok at Emily Simile. Emily spelled with an IE. And this is the Astrology of Terrible Things. We're on Instagram at the Astrology of Terrible Things, all one word. We are on YouTube and everywhere you can get your podcasts. I have another podcast called Haunted Hollywood Hour. That's what this hat is. I keep on forgetting to mention it, but I'm mentioning it now. So if you want spooky stories from Hollywood history, check out that podcast. And in the show notes, I have a link to a GoFundMe. If you are up for helping fund animal rescue, I've rescued some cats that have needed medical care, and I could really use some help getting their vet bills paid off. So even $5, if you have it, can really help. Until next time, don't be afraid of terrible things. They're part of life, but maybe you can have a little fun being terrible.
Yes. Stay terrible.
Stay terrible.